If you watched the news in 2019, Tesla was bankrupt. If you watched in 2021, they were a fraud. And if you watch CNBC today, apparently their cars are autonomous murder bots that are simultaneously behind the competition and too dangerous to exist. There is a massive disconnect between reality and the CNBC cinematic universe. One shows a company revolutionizing transport with data and AI. The other shows a company that, well, if you believe the headlines, is about to collapse any second now. Today, we are doing a forensic audit of 3 specific CNBC reports. We aren't just reacting, we're dissecting. We're going to look at how they frame autonomy, how they mislead you on robotaxis, and why they refuse to admit that a software update is not a mechanical recall. By the end of this video, you'll understand the playbook, you'll see the strings being pulled, and hopefully, you'll never look at a tech check segment the same way again. Let's dive in. So, why are we talking about this today? Why pick on CNBC? Is it just because it's fun? Well, yes, but it's also because we're at a critical junction in automotive history. The transition to AI-driven robotics is the biggest industrial shift since the assembly line. But here is the problem. Mainstream media operates on a business model built on 2 things: fear and ad revenue. When GM or Ford spends billions on TV ads, the network has a subconscious incentive, or sometimes explicit, to treat them with kid gloves. Tesla spends 0. That makes them the perfect villain. With the Robotaxi unveil and the wide release of FSD V14, the technology is moving faster than the regulations. This creates a confusion gap, and CNBC loves to fill that gap with skepticism disguised as journalism. They present themselves as the neutral arbiter of truth, but as we're about to see, their reporting often relies on outdated definitions and misleading comparisons. We're going to look at 3 recent deep dives CNBC made. Let's start with their confusion of what autonomy actually means. In this first video, CNBC tries to explain the levels of driving automation. On the surface, this looks educational. They break down the ACE levels. Level 1 is cruise control, level 5 is no steering wheel. Simple, right? But here is where they pull the sleight of hand. The first misleading claim is that Tesla is stuck at level 2. CNBC loves to hammer home that Tesla is technically at level 2, while Mercedes has achieved level 3. They frame this as Mercedes winning the tech race. They suggest that because Tesla requires driver supervision, the tech is inferior to legacy auto. This is a massive distortion of utility versus liability. Mercedes Level 3 system, called Drive Pilot, is what I like to call traffic jam simulator. It only works on pre-mapped highways, in daylight, in good weather, below 40 miles per hour, and only if there is a car in front of you. If it starts to rain, disengages. If you go 41 miles per hour, disengages. Tesla's FSD, labeled Level 2, can drive you from your driveway to a Starbucks across the city, handling roundabouts, construction zones, and pedestrians. CNBC compares a calculator, i.e. Mercedes, to a jagged but brilliant AI, i.e. Tesla, and tells you that the calculator is better because it doesn't make mistakes, as long as you only type 2 plus 2. So, what's the verdict? CNBC uses a rigid, outdated 2015 chart to judge 2025 AI. Next up, let's look at their coverage of the robotaxi race. This is where the bias gets arguably the most aggressive. The second misleading claim is that Waymo is the leader because they have no driver. CNBC presents a binary view. Waymo has no driver, so they won. Tesla has a driver, so they lost. They frame the robotaxi discussion as if the finish line has already been crossed by Waymo. But this ignores scalability, the most important word in business. Waymo works on geofenced rails. They map an area like Phoenix or San Francisco down to the inch. If a traffic cone moves 3 feet, the car freaks out. Now, obviously, I'm joking, but you get the picture. It's essentially a very expensive train that doesn't need tracks. Tesla is solving general autonomy. A Tesla can drive in a city it has never seen before. CNBC ignores that Waymo has a few thousand cars in a few cities, while Tesla has millions of data gathering robots on the road globally. Waymo may be winning the battle, but Tesla is building the army to win the war. CNBC conveniently leaves out the scalability problem. And finally, the crown jewel of misleading reporting, the safety and recall videos. The third misleading claim is the way they weaponize the word recall. CNBC loves this headline. When you hear recall, what do you think of? You think of a Ford Pinto exploding. You think of loose brake lines. You think of driving to a dealership and drinking stale coffee for 4 hours. CNBC reports on Tesla recalls regarding FSD font size and warning icons with the same gravity as exploding airbags. 99% of Tesla recalls are over-the-air software updates. It happens while you sleep. The car doesn't move. By refusing to clarify between software updates and physical recall in their headlines, CNBC is intentionally misleading the public to damage the brand's perception. It's like saying your iPhone is being recalled every time you download iOS 18. There has been a few other misleading claims CNBC made throughout the years I wanted to bring to light. First, the LiDAR is essential narrative. They heavily imply that true autonomy requires LiDAR. And because Tesla uses cameras, they are cutting corners on safety. They also interview so-called experts who say that camera alone isn't enough. But humans drive with vision. We don't shoot lasers out of our eyeballs. The vision only is unsafe narrative is pushed by LiDAR companies who are terrified that Tesla will prove their expensive hardware is obsolete. By omitting the fact that modern neural nets can infer depth better than LiDAR can in rain or fog, CNBC paints Tesla's innovation as a budget cut rather than a technological breakthrough. Second, the liability nightmare narrative. This focuses on the who is responsible when it crashes question. They frame the regulatory hurdle as an impossible wall for Tesla. This is FUD 101, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Insurance goes where the data is. If the data proves the car crashes 10 times less than a human, which we will get to, insurance companies will be begging to insure these cars because it's free money for them. CNBC frames regulation as a blockade, when in reality, Regulators usually follow the data. And guess who has the most data? Tesla. And last is focusing on anecdotes over statistics. Anecdotes are not data. In the US, there's a car crash every few seconds. Humans are terrible drivers. We text, we drink, we get tired. Tesla releases quarterly safety data. The miles driven per accident on autopilot are drastically higher, meaning safer, than the national average. CNN ignores the millions of lives saved or accidents avoided to focus on the one crash that generates clicks. It's the classic man bites dog journalism. A human crashing is normal, a computer crashing is newsworthy. Now, let's be fair. I don't want to be a blind fanboy here. Does CNBC have some points? Yes, Elon is terrible with timelines. He said we'd have a million robotaxis in 2020. It's 2026, and we don't. That is a valid criticism. Also, FSD does do stupid things. It can be jerky, it can curve your wheels, it requires supervision. If CNBC just stuck to Elon is over optimistic on dates and the software is impressive but still in beta, I wouldn't be making this video. But they don't stop there. They extrapolate Tesla is late into Tesla is a fraud. They turn FSD made a mistake into FSD is a public health crisis. The criticism isn't the problem. The framing is the problem. So, what is the verdict? The mainstream media, specifically outlets like CNBC, are incapable of covering exponential innovation because they view it through a linear lens. They judge software companies using hardware metrics. They judge AI learning curves using 2015 regulatory charts. And they judge a disruptor by the standards of the disrupted. When you watch their videos, ask yourself, who benefits from me believing this? Is it the consumer? Or is it the legacy industries trying to buy time? Tesla isn't perfect, but the picture CNBC paints is a caricature designed to keep you watching, clicking, and afraid. If you want to see what FSD can actually do, go watch raw, unedited footage from actual owners, not a 3-minute clips package from a studio in New Jersey. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm find people who are tired of the mainstream narrative. Let me know in the comments, what is the most ridiculous thing you've heard the news say about EVs? I'm Benji, thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.